Estella Survival Podcast. Where pain becomes purpose, no fear, no remorse. Say it again. Through the pain, through the fire, through the worst of my day. We made it. I found purpose in the breaking. Right there. Survival isn't a whisper. No. Go if you listen, you survive. Still breathing, still alive. God never wastes the hurting. Every chapter had a rolling tide.
Gail Estella, and welcome to the Gail Estella Survival Podcast.
Where pain comes purpose. No fear, no remorse. Survival isn't a whisper. Through the worst of my day. And the breaker isn't no whisper.
Everyone, this is Gail Estella, and welcome to the Gail Estella Survival Podcast. Here's where we turn pain into purpose, because survival isn't a whisper, it's a roar. And before we get started, there's a couple of things I need from you. The first thing is, will you please go and like, share, and subscribe to the Gail Estella Survival Podcast? Secondly, where are you tuning in from? I'm here in Aiken, South Carolina. Put in the comment box below where you're tuning in from. Are you following me on all of my social media platforms? If not, please do so at Gail Estella. And lastly, Through It All by Gail Estella. Have you purchased your copy of Through It All? If not, it's not too late. You can go to TrueVinePublishingCompany.org, Amazon.com, or anywhere books are sold. My guest tonight, this gentleman, while scrolling through social media, I saw his post. I saw one of his posts, and I realized, he's an advocate against domestic violence. And you don't see this too much. When you think of advocacy against domestic violence, most of the time you see women. But here's a man, a gentleman, a young man, and I say young man because he's much younger than I am, with a powerful story. Mr. Clinton Patton, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I can't complain.
Yes. Thank you for being here. What propelled you to enter into something that you don't see too many men talking about?
Well, at a young age, I kind of had, I would like to call it spiritual competence, discernment. I had a good sense of morality and what was right and wrong. Mm-hmm. I grew up in a household that was very violent. It was pretty much unpredictable. I witnessed my mother being a victim of domestic violence. I also witnessed her being a perpetrator of domestic violence. I have seen it throughout my family. I've seen it throughout other families, but I have two sisters. One of my sisters was murdered in 2007 as a result of domestic violence. And 2 weeks after my sister's funeral, my other sister was in a marriage that was abusive. And I had no idea until she called me one day. And she was like, this boy had jumped on me in front of all of his family. And she was in Atlanta and I was here. And so I had to think fast, because at first I was thinking about, well, how can I get to Atlanta and get back to work on time? But I just decided to call the police and have them do welfare checks. I did enough of them to the point to where my sister was like, hey, I'm ready to go. And so I ended up sending her a ticket to get her for her to go where my mom was at. And then after that, I went and got her, and she's been out here with me ever since.
She's been there ever since. So we're going to go back. You say you grew up in a house where you witnessed domestic abuse. You witnessed it, your mother being abused and the abuser.
I also witnessed her provoking.
Right, provoking the domestic violence. So, as a kid, how old were you at the time?
I had to be 6, 7.
You were a little boy.
I mean, I was young.
Yeah, very young. Can you remember by witnessing the domestic abuse in the household, how it made you feel?
Oh, very anxious, on eggshells, on edge, protective because I had to protect my little sister at the time. Depressed because I had to go to school and I was expected to perform at a high level, but I was barely getting even any sleep at night because my mother and her dude at the time were consistently arguing loudly, fighting, threatening each other, and, cursing and making it a very hostile environment.
And I like what you said, having to go to school to perform.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I don't know if parents realize the amount of trauma that is inflicted on children when they witness this type of behavior in the household. And a lot of times when the child goes to school, and if they're not performing up to par, then they're labeling them as acting out, not being smart. Do you feel anyone is paying attention to the child once they go to school and teachers see a difference in that child? Do you feel they recognize it? Do they care enough to recognize it? Or they look over the child and just keep on going as though nothing's happening with that child? Or
it's not the school's.
You think
it's not the school's job to handle mental health issues that are pertaining to a domestic violence situation at home. It doesn't happen. It's not happening in the school. Your child comes from the home into the school.
Oh,
I stayed in trouble a lot, so the thing is, if I can be candid and honest, a lot of mothers feel like they can do whatever they want to do just because they are the mother. We live in a society that allows our mothers to pretty much do things that are hurtful toward their own children, and they give them this pass just because they are mothers. That's absolutely not fair. And there are so many kids that were put in harm's way or in vulnerable situations just because of a mother's decisions based on their emotions, like holding on to an abusive man or becoming an abuser towards their children. And calling it love. Now, see, the thing is, we have normalized these toxic relationships, and by saying, love is long suffering. People take the Bible, and this isn't something I'm gonna touch on a little bit, but people take the Bible and make it fit their narrative. There is no way a God that is loving is going to make you suffer just to be loved. Love is free. Love does not have to be earned. So when you are placing a child in an abusive relationship, if you are a victim and you hear me right now today, you are acting extremely selfish and not thinking in the best interest of your child, because your child does not need to witness you being hurt or you hurting anybody. Your child should be able to live in an environment that's peaceful and that's conducive to that child learning and becoming a healthy adult.
So would you consider that neglect?
Do it again?
Would you consider that child neglect?
Not only do I consider it child neglect and failure to protect, so does the states. Mm-hmm. They determine that you can be charged for staying with an abuser with neglect and failure to protect. Mm-hmm. And so the thing is, what we need our victims to understand that right now, today, this is your time to be accountable. We're no longer going to hold your hand or beg you to leave a person that is hurting you just to make you feel good or to say something to you about it. And now we got to hear how we're victim blaming. Victim blaming and victim savings are two different things. Victim blaming are for those victims who want to continue to stay in the cycle because they haven't figured out that they need to change.
It needs to change. Hold on to that. victim saving and victim blaming. Hold on to that, because I want to go back to the part when I asked you about the kids going to school, and you said that it's not the school's responsibility. What do you hold the school system accountable for? Because I know schools have teachers, they have guidance counselors, they have different resources there, that if these things are happening, that the child can, if the child isn't getting the help at home, maybe they could provide some type of help or attention. They have people that should be watching to be able to call in social services, to be able to investigate the home. So if there's not their responsibility other than teaching, you're saying that, or educating, are you saying that the school has no other responsibilities to the well-being or the welfare of those children?
Of course, when the child is in the school's custody, which the start of the school day, of course, they have responsibility for their child's safety. If they witness the bruises and stuff on the child, of course, they have the right and need to report that. However, the responsibility of a child's safety or learning to be safe or at peace is the responsibility of the parent, regardless if the parent is absent or not. A child deserves to have a healthy and emotionally available and supportive parent.
Yeah, I agree.
You don't get to just
go ahead.
Just because, and we know that there are a lot of single parent homes. They are. However, that doesn't excuse, okay, because I'm stressed out because I got to pay the bills. That doesn't mean that it's okay to become verbally, emotionally, or physically abusive towards a child that you're supposed to be molding and teaching. And children learn mainly by what they see versus what you say.
Yes.
So if a young lady is witnessing her mom accepting abuse, she's going to go to school and accept abuse from her peers.
I agree.
If a young man is witnessing his daddy hitting on his mama, he's going to go to school and hit on girls.
Yes. Let me ask this question.
And also, the other end of the spectrum is if a young man witnesses his mother being hit on, he may be protective of women. But then he may put himself in situations that he can't get out of by defending women. As a young lady, if she's seeing her daddy being hitting on her mom, she may think it's okay for her to be hit, but she also may begin to hit first and put herself in situations where she feels like she needs to protect herself by physically protecting herself.
Yes. Yes.
And no woman should ever have to defend themselves from a man.
Yes. And I spoke with someone 2 or 3 days ago, and they were basically saying the same thing, that they grew up with so much abuse in the home that it taught them to be hard. It taught them to, be callous, and they've always had to fight. And basically they were saying they were just tired of fighting. And so your mom was being abused. It wasn't your father, you said. Were you abused in the household as well?
Well, I have, around the age of 6, my mother left me with a boyfriend at the time. And I couldn't find any school clothes. Back in the days, your school clothes was your best clothes. You had to iron them to make sure that you look presentable going to a school. And I didn't get them out the day before. And so my mom woke me up and I jumped up and realized that I didn't set my clothes out. So I'm looking for the clothes and my mom goes to work. And so my sister's dad at the time is downstairs and he's yelling, "Hurry up and find the clothes, or I'm gonna give you something to, find the clothes or whatever." So as I'm frantically looking for the clothes, he comes up the stairs and he grabbed his cord off of it was an orange and white Hoover vacuum cleaner, and he started hitting me with it. And I mean, he got me really good. I mean, I had to roll under the bed and hold on to the box spring until my mom came home. So then I ended up staying in the hospital about 3 weeks because I caught an infection I could have died from. And he was an alcoholic, and another thing, my mother's an alcoholic as well. So Alcoholism doesn't cause abuse. The abuse is learned. So at the age of 6, I'm wondering why I endured that. So when I talk about women and the decision that they have to make, regardless of how hard it is, you have to do your best to make a decision that's in the best interest of your child. Or else your child can end up like I did, in a hospital. You don't know what's going on because you left me with someone that's not my father.
Yeah.
The worst place that you can leave your child is with a boyfriend and even a girlfriend. It's just not safe. No, people don't love your kids like you think they do.
Yeah. So are you saying that? Are you saying that all boyfriends and girlfriends are bad? That no parent should ever leave their children with their boyfriends or girlfriends? Or are you saying that you think you may know people, but you really don't know them if a certain situation occurs?
I am saying that there are several instances where mothers, not all, but mothers ignore red flags for the benefit of their own emotions.
Yeah, I believe that.
I am saying that you have mothers that will choose abuse over the safety and the peace of their child. You have mothers who will be at odds with the child's father just to prove a point. It's a lot of things that goes into this type of dynamic. And it's important that we attack every single obstacle that could be in the way of protecting our children. Our children are our future. And if they don't know how to act at home, they're definitely not going to know how to act or even participate in a healthy relationship.
Yes.
At school. Their friendships are relationships.
Yes.
Like we really, just because we feel like we're grown, we're adults, that does not mean that we can do whatever we want to do without thinking about the best interest of
the welfare of the child.
Because I assure you, all we're doing is perpetuating the cycle of poverty, and we're perpetuating the cycle of violence, which is domestic violence.
Yes.
And it's not necessarily physical.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to get to that. And I want to go back to this question. Once you were in the hospital, was social services called while you were in the hospital that you can remember?
No, the only thing I remember about the hospital was that I was on the news, and that was because I was building something, some type of toy, and it was like, how people come to Children's Hospital, whatever, and they, they're on the news and stuff. I was on there for a while, and then I do remember actually going to court. Like the day before the trial, the day before I had to go to court, they brought me in the courtroom, and they set me on the stand. It was like, well, this is where you're gonna sit at, stuff like that. And so the next day, court came. They walked me up. Mind you, I'm little. I got everybody looking at me, and I'm kind of like nervous at the time. But then they put the phone books down. I sit up there, and they asked me. They said, "Well, who did this to you?" And keep putting them out in the courtroom. And I ended up pointing at the person who did it to me.
Mm-hmm. Did he go to jail?
Yes. I'm not sure how long, but yes.
Okay. And how was your relationship with your mom after that?
It was pretty much, it was fake. I never trusted my mom.
Even as a kid?
It was fake.
Okay. Because a lot of times when you think about children at the age of 5, 6, 7, most kids just want their parents, and most kids just want to be loved, and they have a sense of attachment to their parent. So at such a young age, you knew how to manipulate, you knew how to do whatever you felt was supposed to be done in order just to get by.
I was just going with the flow.
Going with the flow.
I was just going with what people taught me. But back then, my mother was the first woman that hurt me. My mother was the first woman that made me feel like I didn't deserve to be protected, because her needs and what she wanted was more important than protecting me.
Mm.
And then my mother was very like verbally aggressive. I mean, the name calling. I mean, it was really just not a comfortable position to be in as a child.
Yeah.
Like, you can't cuss at me and all that extra stuff and they expect me to go out into the world and not feel the ramifications of talking as if I'm not human.
Yeah.
And then I realized that my mother hated men. My mother had a strong dislike for men that had nothing to do with me. But regardless, I was a child, I was a boy child. But, you know, they see you, some parents that are toxic see you as a man before you even get there. You're still a child.
Still a child.
So witnessing her, the way she talked to me was the same way she talked to dudes that she were encountering. She stayed with one dude for like 16, 17 years in a toxic relationship situation. It was not a relationship. And so I'm witnessing this and, you know, the threats and all type of stuff. And so then as I started to date, I started to feel like I need to change people or save people, you know, and then I'm like I'm people pleasing. I'm doing things that to make a person love me, because at the end of the day, at an early age, I already knew what love is. So when my mother would whoop me, I knew that wasn't love. I never felt love. I never felt love after a whooping.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say?
God had already showed me that love hurt.
Mm-hmm. What would you say to a parent that's watching that have young men in the household and they're witnessing their parents or witnessing their mother being abused, and then they're having to endure abuse from their mother? And you said something earlier, abuse isn't always physical. It's the emotional, it's the psychological, it's the verbal. Those things that gets inside of our head that we can't cover up with the Band-Aid. And then when parents expect little boys to be so hard that they're just supposed to take it, or man up, what does that do to a kid?
The thing is, emotional abuse is not discipline. Being able to cuss your child out and tell them to, go somewhere, and I get it, we're human and we're going to make mistakes, but to be condescending and belittling and very harsh towards your child emotionally damages their self-esteem, their self-worth, and their ability to handle rejection. So I see it time and time again. And we have to be accountable for our words. Our words have the ability to speak life or death. Mm-hmm. There is life or death in the tongue. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So if your child is not doing what you want them to do, maybe you should show them. Don't yell and, cuss and all that type of stuff. It's one thing to correct your child than to take out your frustration on your child.
So what if
I did as a parent with my...
What if the parent doesn't know how to tell them? What if the parent doesn't know how to? That's not the child's fault. It is the parent's responsibility to get the help they need, to learn the thing they need to learn to become a better and a more healthy parent, a better version of themselves. Yeah. Because what happens is you keep picking toxic situations. Mm-hmm. Even if people are so hard up for having someone, they will be willing to marry a toxic person to have a toxic marriage. Because sometimes, and what I've seen, again, I can go back. I've done a lot of studying of how women behave, mothers behave, fathers, and all type of stuff. But we always talk about how the father's absent, how the father's emotionally unavailable, how the father's the player, how the father doesn't care about the kid. But now we have to start to hold people who experience domestic violence accountable for their decisions. It takes 7 to 12 times for a person to leave a toxic relationship or an abusive relationship. Yes.
However, it takes one time For a person to lose their life, it takes 6 people to carry you to your grave. It takes 2 people to lower you in the ground.
So let's segue into that, because those statistics are true. And it took me maybe 10 times. I walked away maybe 10 times and went back. I even stayed away for 6 months one time. And it only takes 30 days to 3 months to form a habit or to break a habit. Mm-hmm. And I still went back. Mm-hmm. The grave. Mm-hmm. Your sister. You say your sister was murdered by her abuser.
Yes.
How old was she? Did she witness the abuse in the household as well?
Yeah, so I have a sister on my mom's side, and I have a sister on my father's side. Mm-hmm. My sister on my father's side is my sister that passed away.
Okay.
My sister that passed away also witnessed domestic violence in the household with her mother as well. So, yes.
Let's talk about her. What was her name?
Ashley Renee Hamilton.
Ashley Renee Hamilton. Did you know that she was in a domestic abusive relationship?
Absolutely not. Mm. And we talked every day around the same times. Mm-hmm. Same times. Multiple times. And I had no idea that she was in an abusive relationship.
Why do you think women or men that's being abused, why do you think, and I'm going to say we because I was one of those people as well, why do you think we hide it and conceal it from our family and friends?
Well, they're not ready to leave. Or in their head, they feel like if they are protecting their family and friends, that they don't involve them in it. Mm-hmm. And they have also been manipulated into believing that the abuser is going to get better.
Yes.
So they stay because of unrealistic hope.
Yes. Yes. What happened? Yes, I like the word you just used, unrealistic hope. And essentially that's exactly what it is. Because we see the person as that person we met initially, and we saw something in them then, and it only lasted for a short period of time. And we're still trying to get back to that same person, pretty much like a person that's experiencing addiction. You want to get back to that first high that you never can experience again. And a lot of times it's safe to say that abusers don't change, especially with the person they're in the relationship with. It's very seldom that they change with that same person. How old was Ashley?
She was 22.
She was young. Did she have any kids?
Yes, I have a nephew, and then I have my niece.
Were they by him?
My nephew, my niece have different fathers.
Okay.
The last one was the one that my niece's father's, who's murdered my sister.
That's very young. So you've gone from being this young man that experienced abuse in the household. What type, because you're a very intelligent young man, what type of student were you in school? What type of person were you in school? Because I know you said that you wanted to people please. So what type of person, how did it affect you through your teenage years, the abuse, or witnessing the abuse and being abused?
I was a class clown.
Okay.
And I disrupted my classes all the time. I was constantly talking. I was falling asleep in class sometimes. I was always in the principal's office. I was hard-headed. I had little to no respect for adults back then. I was going to say what I wanted to say, even if they didn't like it. Back then, I had uncles, but I mean, I didn't really look up to nobody back then. I just existed, and I just did what a child would do, try to fit in.
Trying to fit in. So you're saying you didn't have any positive male reinforcement in your life?
I mean, at the time, so my father, he was in Texas at the time, and I was in high school in Mississippi. That's where I'm talking. That's what I'm talking about. So I was in high school in Mississippi, and I mean, my mother and my father are from the same town. So people know me. I had family there, but I mean, I've always been different. Like, I didn't smoke or nothing. I didn't drink. I wasn't trying to be cool or nothing like that. The only thing that I really did was I was extremely disruptive in class. I would make fun of people. I would laugh to keep from crying.
Tell the audience what type of work that you're speaking of.
Yeah, I used to be a therapist, in which I am not practicing anymore. I'm more so a relationship trauma coach, and I help people to start and maintain healthy relationships. I also help men and women to leave situations that are no longer serving their purpose and those that are abusive. So when I say I've been in the mental health field about 25 years.
Okay.
I've seen a lot. I've saw. I've helped. I know. I've learned. I'm a master degree individual. I'm very educated and knowledgeable on this topic because I took the opportunity that was before me to turn my trauma, the trauma that I experienced, into triumph by educating myself so that I could help people to recognize the signs, recognize when they are making bad decisions, and recognize when they are going to be abused or even if they are being abused. So when I say work with people, I work with pastors' wives, pastors' wives that were abusive, and however, the congregation holds this person on a pedestal. So then they get to they start making excuses. Well, this is a man of God, and you got to pray for God to release this man from. Absolutely not. It does not make any type of sense to me. So I know I'm going to ruffle some feathers, but at the end of the day, systems that were created in our society is what perpetuates the cycle of violence, or i.e. domestic violence, poverty, lack of education. Those things are like the foundation of a toxic situation. They're not relationships because victims cannot relate to abusers. And what happens is oftentimes victims spend a lot of time trying to relate to an abuser, trying to understand.
Yeah.
So now that brings me to, they are strolling on social media. They are listening to people who aren't even experts in relationships, and they definitely don't know what it's like to be in an abusive relationship. So they see this word narcissistic,
which is misused a lot in today's society.
So now they see it, and they're like, "Oh my God, my boyfriend or my girlfriend has the symptoms of narcissism."
Stay right there.
Make up time.
So do you feel that word is being misused a lot in today's society? Because
absolutely, because they don't know what it is.
Some type of criteria that you have to have, 5 or 7 signs to
narcissistic person. Narcissism is a personality disorder.
Yes.
You can be a narcissistic person and not be abusive.
Yes. Say that again.
You can be a narcissistic person and not be abusive.
Yeah.
Narcissistic people care more about their self-image than they do about abusing another person. Mm-hmm. When victims start to talk about narcissistic abuse, it's because they're made up in their head that this person is narcissistic versus the person simply and strictly being abusive.
Mm-hmm. And that's one word that I stay away from. That's one word that I steer clear of, because I have friends that are therapists. My sister's a therapist, and they always say you can't loosely use that word. And so I still
absolutely not, because but it's a catchphrase, so you get views and stuff because you got mainly women looking for oh my God. So now he's a narcissist. Now, not that I know what's going on with him, now I can help him. Mm-hmm. So now here comes some more unrealistic hope. Yes, I can help him. I can fix him. And they end up sacrificing everything, including their life. And
sometimes their children and the respect of their children.
Everything.
Yes. I have, excuse me? Yes.
So I'm listening.
What, did you tell me your sister lived in the state of Mississippi?
Yes, my sister she lived in Jackson, Mississippi.
Jackson, Mississippi. I'm going to read something. Recent data, a recent survey found that more than half of Mississippi adults have experienced intimate partner violence, physical or sexual. Stats. Some studies have Mississippi ranked at number 14 when it comes to domestic abuse, and some has Mississippi ranked at number 16 when it comes to domestic abuse. That's pretty high.
Mm-hmm. While Mississippi is ranked at 14 and 16, where I am now is number 1.
Oklahoma. And where I am, we're number 6 in South Carolina.
Yeah, Oklahoma is number 1. So it's
that's way bad. That's way bad.
Dangerous. Yeah, it's very dangerous.
Okay. So here in South Carolina, they're trying to pass a bill which is considered the coercive control bill. And they're wanting to make this a bill that people can go to jail. The abuser can go to jail for coercive control, which we know that's isolation, controlling finances, monitoring a partner, threats and intimidation, emotional manipulation. But as of right now, there are only 7 states in the United States that has coercive control as a bill. And I had that written down. And I know Hawaii is the one that is considered as a crime. So do you feel that a bill should be passed for coercive control? How important would it be? And why don't states take domestic abuse more seriously than they do when so many victims are losing their lives?
Well, I'm gonna keep it simple. Pain is profit. Pain is profit. People get paid.
When you say pain is profit, we're talking about the judicial system. We're talking about the healthcare field, funeral homes.
We're talking about the nonprofit organizations that the federal government keep funding, and we still have high numbers of domestic violence. They only allot 10% of grants to prevention. The thing is, if you really wanted to stop domestic violence, and it's 100% preventable,
yes,
you have to put more money into prevention. That means I am in schools teaching children how to be in relationships, how to be in friendships. I'm teaching them healthy coping skills. I am giving them programs and stuff that aren't just strictly geared toward Caucasian America. Like, I'm really meeting these children and students where they are. I am offering a free program for the parents to come talk about their stress and their issues, to be able to get out and do something different to help them. I'm going to provide a program that's going to help them when they need financial assistance. I'm going to create a program where transitional homes are available for those who really, really need to get out of those situations. If our government really wanted domestic violence to stop, they definitely can do it.
Yeah. And definitely. I like what you said about going into the schools, because that's a brick wall that I run into often. The schools don't want it to be talked about, and I know we can use terminology, unhealthy relationships. We don't have to say domestic abuse. We can say unhealthy relationships, and that's intimate relationships, family dynamics, any type of relationship. But most schools, churches, organizations, they don't want to shed light to this topic. And I feel like you feel the prevention part, if we can start when these kids are elementary, 6th, 7th grade, and you can catch them then, it can be prevented. But no one wants to talk about it.
They don't want to talk about it because, again, it's profit and pain. Churches, man, churches, while I understand that you got to have something to believe in, you just can't fool me. I'm just not the person you can just tell me something that's just written in stone or it's gospel. The churches don't want that because it doesn't look good, and people will stop going to church because they're actually receiving healing. Mm-hmm. I've heard too many times the sick be in church. I mean, how long you got to be sick though? Like, how long? Like, honestly, you want that offering, you want this money. The churches are nonprofit organizations, by the way. That's why the offerings are donations. It's not really going to God. I ain't never seen God pull up in an armor truck. Hey, I'm ready to get that offering you got for me. Never seen it. And I know they want you to, I know we've been taught that you got to believe in things you can't see. I mean, you can do that and still love God. You don't have to feel like you lost faith because you don't believe in stuff you can't see. That's not what God is about. Love is correction. God will correct you, but he never takes anything away from you. Never. And to tell someone that, hey, you need to donate 10% of your income, that's a business strategy. If you don't donate your tithes, you're going to be broke. You're going to be broke, or guess what? You're going to make God mad and you're going to go to hell. The thing is, Christianity was introduced to slaves that couldn't even write or read. And they introduced this concept of Jesus and God and how they want to create this separation from the ultimate power, right? They want to create something. They want to create a barrier. Slave masters, they want to create this barrier so that they can also continue to maintain control. That's why when you go in churches, you don't really feel the love that's supposed to be in churches. You don't have to go fellowship in the church for you to like give your 10%. 10% of your time could be, I'm going to go down to this homeless shelter, or I'm going to love someone. I'm going to love on somebody today that hadn't received love. But everything is tied to money. Everything.
Well, let me ask this question. When the Bible in the Old Testament, in Malachi 3:10, which it clearly states, bring 10% of your tithes to the storehouse. And that's when
who wrote that?
Who wrote the Bible? Man wrote the Bible.
Who wrote my point exactly?
Yes, man wrote the Bible.
I understand that we should, but if you are spiritually and morally connected to God, you ain't thinking about percentage anyway. You're thinking about doing what God will want you to do and what God does for you.
And I think that's just a baseline. That's a baseline.
Right. But when you are grounded in God, you don't think about baseline. You don't think of minimum when you're grounded in God's, you know who God is, when you know that you're made in God's image. You don't think about, 10%.
Okay, so can you, let me ask this question. Who wrote the Bible? Man. So you can say that we're made in God's image. That's also in the Bible. So how is it that we could take some parts of the Bible and abide by them, but then other parts of the Bible can be discarded?
See, anything could be manipulated into whatever you want it to be, whatever you want to say that fits your narrative, or fits a person's narrative. Okay. So in this regard, the Bible has been revised way too many times. It's been revised, rewritten, and taken away for it to be valid. However, like, honestly, for myself, I don't have to sit down and read the Bible backwards and forwards to understand what being made in God's image means. It means you are a loving person. It means that you love, and you don't believe in long suffering or love. That's not of God. God doesn't make you suffer because you love. Love is infinite. There is no such thing as, I loved you at one point in time, because being made in God's image knows that love is infinite. And as a man, when you are rooted in love and grounded in love, you carry yourself totally different. You don't want to harm anyone. You don't want anyone else harmed. You are a protector because you love first. You know what I'm saying? So within the Bible, honestly, a lot of the things that I know, I did not get them from a Bible. I got them directly from listening to what God has says after I've had my questions. I didn't have to go to any type of Bible. And did I read it growing up? Absolutely. But when I put it down, God spoke louder to me.
So God spoke.
It was so like, it speaks louder. He showed me different. You know, he showed me like peace. When I put it down, God showed me this is why you are made in my image. I created you. Your soul is built on loving. And that's just a beautiful thing. That's why I have no fear in what I say, because I don't have fear because God instilled in me love. And there is no fear in love. And I wholeheartedly know that I can't love you and be afraid of you at the same time.
Okay,
I can't do that. That's me living.
Stay right there. Stay right there. This is something you said. A God-fearing man will kill you. He's not fearing God.
Absolutely.
While he's hurting you.
Right. Because we're taught to fear God, right? You're taught to fear God, but it's just not. In my opinion, and what I've been through in my life, fearing God was not what was supposed to happen, because again, I can go right back to there is no fear in love. For perfect love casts out all fear. And God is love. So God doesn't even have fear. God corrects you, but it's not from a fearful place. God corrects you from love. God does not take from you. He does not make you feel like, oh my God, you didn't listen to me this time, so I'm gonna take this from you. That's not of God. God states, he wants you to have an abundant life. Abundance doesn't take from you. Abundance is not necessarily money. Abundance is your health. It is the ways that you love other people. You can have an abundance of love. You can have abundance of peace. Fear, man. When I said that, a lot of people, when I said that a God-fearing man will kill you, because when you start putting these men up on pedestals, because they preach to you and they reading the Bible and stuff like that, those are the main ones that abuse you. Because now they are using their quote unquote religion or their religious practices to hold you hostage in a situation that God didn't tell you to stay in the first place.
So do you think that's a broad?
God would never tell you.
They are the main ones?
Well, I can say main, but I'll say there are a lot of them.
Okay.
When I tell you there are a lot of them. You see preachers all the time in cheating scandals. You see a lot of that going on, even in the congregation. I'm not asking for perfection. I'm asking for our world to be a more loving place. And being a more loving place means that we have to hold people accountable when they're not exuding that in which is love. We know people make mistakes. We understand that.
Yes. So let's go back to the advocacy part, the domestic advocacy part. Mm-hmm. What role do you play as an advocate against domestic violence?
I am honest. Everything that I do is rooted in love. I am passionate. I am strong. I am a voice for the voiceless. I am a brother who lost a sister to domestic violence. I am someone who knows the ultimate result of staying in an abusive relationship. Mm-hmm. I am someone who is made in God's image. So it's easy for me to love you, even when you don't love yourself. Mm-hmm. So my advocacy is rooted in love, truth. I don't know what else. It's just love and truth. Raw.
I remember, very raw. I remember you saying something about the mindset of a victim has to change. Use
the mindset.
Yeah, you said a little. You
It
spoke.
is very important.
So talk to us about that.
It is very important for victims to be held accountable for their decisions and staying in an abusive relationship. There is a huge difference from being victim blaming or victim saving. The crazy thing about it is you have people who call themselves survivors. As a quote unquote survivor, you have to continue to re-traumatize yourself, to think about why and what happened to you that made you a survivor. God would not want you to be a survivor. God would want you to live. God would want you to live as if you had never been hurt. God would want you to have freedom. God would want your mind to be free. God would want you to have your mind to be at peace. God would want you to be around be around people that are in peace. God will want you to go where you're celebrated, not tolerated. So time and time again, when you say something about a victim leaving and, oh my God, you're victim blaming. No family member or friend wants to sit around and watch their family member or friend continue to go back to a person that's hurting them, knowing that they are in fear for their life. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, we keep talking about how hard it is. It's going to continue to be hard unless you do something about it. So if you are a victim and you're watching this show, I assure you, your family and friends will not feel well if something happened to you. That void will be in their life for the rest of their lives. And all you got to do, and I say it like this, I understand it may seem easy the way that I'm saying it, but the first thing you got to do is have the courage to walk away. You got to have the courage to respect yourself enough to know that you don't deserve to be hit, cussed at, or pushed down, or choked, or anything by any person, even if it's your family, because domestic violence is not limited to significant relationships. It could be family members. It could be an uncle on a nephew. It could be a dad on a cousin. It could be, it can happen to anybody. Mm-hmm. And as a victim, you might want to stop calling yourself a victim. And I'm not saying that to be mean, but as long as you keep staying in those thought processes of thinking about what was good and how you could change. And then now once you feel like you've gotten out of it, you really haven't, because you're mentally still there, because you're calling yourself a survivor. You are not a survivor. You are so much more than a survivor. You are a human. You are God's property. You are a amazing specimen that was created on this earth to be free, to be in peace. You were made to be loved, to be cared for. You were not made to be constantly reliving trauma. You were not made to be constantly living the lust that you had for a toxic situation. You were made to love. You were made to have a cycle of love, people around you that exudes nothing but love for you. So today, stop calling yourself a survivor and remember who you are. You know what your name is. You know what you like to do. You're not lost. You have been found. And now it's time for you to take control of your life and be accountable for your safety. Because at the end of the day, nobody can sit in those rooms with you. Nobody can go to the hospital with you. When something happened, nobody is there behind closed doors. All you have is you. Until you're able to have enough courage to live how God wants you to live, and that's in peace. Everyone on this earth have a divine right to live and live with love and without violence within the context of relationships.
I believe that, and I agree with that. You and I had this conversation before when you said the word survivor, and I hear a lot of people say don't consider yourself a survivor. But once you've gone through any type of traumatic experience, don't you first have to survive it in order to move forward, to consider yourself a conqueror, to consider yourself an overcomer, to consider yourself, now that I have life and I have life more abundantly. But first, doesn't it start with surviving the situation, regardless of what it is or what it was?
The problem with survivor is people stay there. You could be a survivor for the rest of your life. trauma is not a life sentence.
So you
don't have to live.
saying once we go through the trauma or whomever, whatever their situation is, once they go through the trauma, they have survived the trauma, then they move forward to different adjectives from survivor. That's your perspective on it.
They could just move forward to being human. They don't have to even assign a label to it. You don't have to assign a label to it. So were you not human
while you were going through the experience? Were you not human then?
Yes. Yes, but you can transform. Yeah, of course. The thing is, like, you can. When I say being human, that means without violence. That means without fear.
Yes.
That means, you know what I mean? That means freedom. Right, freedom. You'll never be free if you call yourself a survivor and you stay there. Most people that I've seen that call themselves a survivor, every other word or every other post or every other it's like, oh, I'm a survivor, right? When I tell you, I don't look like what I've been through. I don't consider myself or care to be called a survivor. I live in peace. I live in peace. I love as if I've never been hurt before. I am a forward thinker. I am a resilient person. I have the ability to bounce back from anything. I can't be resilient if I keep saying, you know what, I survived being a child abuse victim. I survived my favorite uncle being murdered. I survived my sister being dead. I survived my father passing away due to cancer. No, I have to live as if I've never been hurt. Because I have kids that deserve to have an emotionally available and supportive and loving father. My kids know I don't do anything with toxicity. Because
you have to live as though you've never been hurt. Some may say that is I know the word I'm looking for, that you're not accepting what has happened to you. You're not owning up to what has happened to you. Maybe you swept it under the you swept it under the rug that, okay, I'm surviving as though I've never been hurt. So does that mean we go through the hurt? Are you saying you go through the hurt, you heal from the hurt, you move on from the hurt, and act as though the hurt never existed?
There's one thing to take the trauma that you experience and turn it into triumph. You can't be triumphant if you consistently focus on the trauma.
Keep reliving it. Yes.
I know we hear forgive and forget, whatever, but that's not what I mean. I'm not even going down that.
Okay.
What I mean is, if I'm in a relationship and I want to be happy and healthy in another relationship, I have no business going back to what happened in the relationship in the past. And that does not mean that I excuse the behavior or even the person that has done it. I just choose to live.
Yes.
I don't need to. It's almost like, while you should not be in places that no longer serve your purpose. Why would I? I can't do that. And this is something that I just learned. So I'm telling you, this is from experience. Like, and don't get me wrong, I am not seeking or speaking of perfection. I am simply speaking of living.
And not bringing, not allowing the baggage to continually hold you down, or weigh you down.
Living. That's what all I'm talking. That's all I'm referencing. Even when I hear people say that, well, nobody's perfect, right? Nobody's perfect. When y'all hear that, that leads me to believe that person is going to keep doing the same thing and use that as an excuse because nobody's perfect.
Not taking
you don't have to be perfect to be made perfect in love. You be made perfect in love. You don't have to be perfect. Love itself is perfect. When you know what love is, you know it's perfect. So that's why you have people who are loving and they feel like they're giving a lot. They do, because they don't really think about it, because they are loving. And their love is perfect for a person that understands what love is. Abusers never know what love is. They don't care. It's all about lust.
Okay.
People who stay with abusers begin to confuse lust and love. They think that love means struggle. There ain't nothing about love but struggling. Love is not long suffering. Love is a beautiful thing. Love is definitely healing. Love is the greatest gift. Why would a greatest gift be long suffering?
So
no, it's absolutely not.
So for the woman that's watching this, or the man,
mm-hmm. Right.
And when you're saying loving, when you're speaking of love, what about the person that feels that they can't walk away from the relationship because they love their abuser? Because honestly, we can love someone that's abusing us, but that doesn't mean that we have to stay in the relationship because we love them. Because I remember someone telling me, I'm not telling you not to love him, but you could love him from afar. So what would you say to the female or male that's watching and they're using love? I'm not going to even use the word excuse, but they're using love as the reason that they feel that they can't walk away. What would you say to that person?
Well, buckle up. First of all, you have to love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You can't love someone that's hurting you, because if you feel like you love them, that means you don't love yourself. And there's a difference between lusting for that person to change or lusting for that person to be who you thought they were, and love. Love is not long suffering. You're not going to suffer. A person that loves you is not going to hurt you. A person that it may feel disappointing when a person tells you something that you don't want to hear because they're trying to correct you. Now, what I will say that hurts is the disappointment hurts, absolutely, but it's not love that hurts. If I love you, I'm going to correct you. If I love you, I'm going to treat you as if I love you. If I love you, I'm going to respect you. If I love you, I'm not putting my hands on you. And if I love myself, I'm not allowing a person to speak negatively over me. I'm not allowing that person to put their hands on me and then saying I'm staying with them because I love them. My sister loved someone enough that it was her life that was taken.
Yeah.
There is no way, if you are watching me, that a man that is hurting you could lead you to believe that he loves you if you truly understand that God is love and God does not want you to be placed in a situation that is not of God, because he knows that man will hurt you without spiritual competence. That's the one thing that needs to be addressed too. Abusers don't really have souls. They have no spiritual competence. They have no conscience of anything. So that's why it's easy for them to hurt you.
A lot of times we talk about the victim. We very seldom talk about the abuser as far as reforming them. How much education and how much resources should go into reforming the abuser? Because that also helps break the cycle.
Well, by the time you get to reforming an abuser, it's kind of, too late. However, they're trying that. They're trying systems like the Batters Intervention Program. Y'all have that in South Carolina where you are too. I mean, that's a 52-week course. You pay $25 a week. I mean, the attention span of a human being is real short. So I don't know how they think that 52 weeks is appropriate for teaching somebody how to not be abusive. I don't get that. They need to start with making the laws stricter. There should not be more strict. I mean, there should not be a plea bargain when it comes to murder and domestic violence. Mm-hmm. There should be no plea bargain. They should have to do every ounce of their time. They need to make domestic violence a federal crime. Yeah, so they can do day for day. That's what they need to do. It'll stop then, or it'll slow down.
And what about the coercive
Make it a federal crime with no
bill?
people.
How about the coercive control bill? That should
I get that, but that's still subjective, though.
Yes.
That's still subjective. Like you don't really know that. We can say that all day long. They can write a bill and all kind of stuff, which I get it. They trying, I guess, but they're still subjective. The policemen are the people that come out to the scene. They need the training. They need the training. They need the training, and they need to make sure that they aren't abusive. The judges, the lawyers, they need to make sure these people are going through psychological assessments that show that they aren't abusers.
Yes. And a lot of them are. A lot of them are. I've heard those stories as well.
I went with an organization out here. I took a young lady down there because they helped with protection orders. This lady did not get any services because I was with her. They told her that she was too comfortable around men.
So a lot of times the victim, the victim is.
This is an organization right out here in Oklahoma City that told someone they couldn't help them because they were too comfortable around men and they didn't look scared. Yeah. People become numbers. Yeah, it's not about really help. It's like we serviced 500 families this year with this grant. We're still number one in domestic violence. I'm not saying you're going to heal a whole state or whatever, but we can't. I mean, where's the improvement? The best intervention programs, that's just so they have something to do.
Yeah, and tell me the name of that again, the Batters
Intervention Program, BIP.
Okay. This has been good.
Yeah, and I think in Texas is BIP, Batters Intervention Program, Perpetrator Program, or something like that. I'm not sure, but
This has been good. Wow. I really don't know.
No
Excuse me?
They don't have proof that those programs work.
Yeah.
They don't have no numbers, no data that says, okay, so if you go to this program, we know that our reoffender rate is less than 15%.
Yes. There's not enough subjective data
go here, pay your money, and then, the judges get paid, the attorneys get paid, prosecutors get paid, everybody getting paid off of pain.
And then they get out of going to jail.
Instead of alleviating the pain in the first place, preventing the pain.
Yeah.
We're talking about relationship stuff.
So what's the responsibility of the parent? And you said it earlier as far as protecting the child, but what's the responsibility of what's the responsibility of the parents as far as educating and talking to their youth and their teens? And what age do you feel that they need to start talking to them about healthy and unhealthy relationships?
Kindergarten. 5 or 6 years old.
Because you remember when kids would be playing at recess and a little boy may hit a little girl and they say, oh, he just liked you. Or the Valentine cards, you give the Valentine cards to your sweetheart. And a lot of times those same instances are setting kids up for unhealthy relationships.
They'll grow up hitting. I know they'll grow up hitting. And they ain't got nothing to do with that. Hitting a person don't have nothing to do with them liking them at all. That's not an indicator of that.
Yes.
Also, not you mentioned, but butterflies is not mean that a person really like a person or love a person. That means that your body is saying something is wrong with this spirit. I need to get away from it. That's an indicator. It's not, oh my God, this is my princess.
Oh, you give me butterflies.
Yeah, you mean
that's a negative. That's a negative connotation.
You gotta walk. It is. It's your body telling you there's something wrong. That's not. Oh, I like him or he like me. That's your body telling you that it's something that's not right.
I saw on one of your posts, you said that you meet people where they are without judgment, but you feel it's not reciprocated. Explain that.
Because of the passion that I have for ending domestic violence in relationships, I've been called like I've been accused of victim blaming, victim shaming, and all that type of stuff. Instead of trying to understand or get where I'm, trying to understand the context and where it's coming from. So it's not reciprocated. And even I'm not really a judgmental person. I just look at systems. I look at situations for the situation, not necessarily the person, for the situation. I've learned that behaviors, abusers and victims have the same behavior patterns. I look at behavior patterns all day long. So when I look at the behavior patterns, and you got to hear victim blaming and victim shaming, it's like my sister was murdered as a result of this. I wouldn't even be honestly talking about it. I can find something else to do with my time, but I know how important it is. And another thing, our children deserve to have their parents. I mean, it's just a lot of our kids. This is why I do what I really do, because I want our kids to have the best opportunity to be successful. Yes. And they can do that through two healthy parents. Mm-hmm.
So when you're saying
emotionally healthy parents.
So when you're saying that parents, men or women, need to be held accountable, they need to change their mindset. You're not judging them. You're just stating the facts on what it is that you feel would help diminish this cycle of domestic abuse.
Right. It's not about being judgmental at all. It's about saving your life so that your parents don't have to be like my niece and nephew and not have their mom because some idiot decided that she didn't deserve to live. So we just in order to do something different, we have to do something different.
Have to do something different.
And I'm a work in progress as well. I work on myself daily. Mm-hmm. I take time to myself. I don't really, I'm not a toxic person. Have I been in toxic situations? Absolutely. That's what taught me what toxic was.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask this question.
So now,
because with you experiencing so much trauma and abuse in your life, is it safe to say that you've never hit a woman?
Yeah, I don't hit women.
Yeah.
I don't even call names.
Okay. So what do you do when you get angry? Because you're a very passionate person. So what do you do when you get angry in a relationship or your intimate relationships? What?
Maybe I walk away.
Walk away.
I may take a walk, or I'll go sit in the car and listen to instrumentals. Mm-hmm. And then I try to make sure that I'll go back to talk about whatever the issue is, because sometimes leaving can cause more problems. So I make sure that, listen, I'm going to go ahead and leave for a second. I'll be back in a little bit. I go gather my thoughts. I always even write music, but the main thing I do, I just leave.
So are you a big communicator?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. You never have to wonder what I think or what I feel about anything.
Mm-hmm. Do you wear your feelings on your shoulder? Some men don't cry. Some men don't tell you they're feeling sad or what you might have said hurt them. Are you that person that's true with your emotions and express your emotions?
I'm emotionally available and competent. I have no problem with
available and competent.
Talking about, what I'm telling you, we'll never have to worry about what I think or feel because I'll just say it. I don't have those type of issues. I don't have trust issues either.
This is the Gail Estella Survival Podcast. Tell the audience 3 things that has helped you to survive.
Ooh, that's a great question. my spirituality, my faith, and last but not least, and what I feel the main thing is love. Because love created freedom for me.
The greatest of these is love.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And the greatest gift.